What's going on, my dudes? Chensley11 here, and welcome back to another episode in the A to Z series, where we are going through every single champion in League of Legends and giving you a basic or beginner's guide on each of them. In this episode, we're going to be showing you how to play Kayn Jungle for beginners. So I hope you enjoy. With Kayn, what we're going to do actually is we're going to have two videos. We're going to do a red and a blue form Kayn. So this is going to be showing you how to play Red Kayn or Rast Kayn rather for beginners in the jungle. So hope you enjoy. I really enjoy Kayn. I think he's fantastic for newer players, and I think he's great because he's mechanically quite simple, or relatively simple for a carry jungler, and he has two distinct forms, which makes him unique and fun to play, which means you can either play like a team fight focused, drain tanky sort of champion like we're going to be showing you in this game, or the red form or the Rast Kayn, or an absolute full-on burst assassin, let's one-shot their whole team style champion, which is the blue Kayn. So we are going to be focusing on the Red Kayn stuff this game. And we're going to be showing you... We're going to be skipping all the blue Kayn stuff, and then we'll cover that in the next episode where we'll go through the blue Kayn. So Red Kayn, in general, you want to be trying to, get the dragons, get your objectives. You want to be getting form as best you can. And you want to be, obviously, grouping and team fighting because he has great team fight potential. And what we're going to be doing for the clear is we're going to be doing what you can do on Kayn, which is a chickens or a raptor start without a leash, which is something that you can do if you don't get a leash from your top laner. Although you can get a leash on the red buff like we do here, or what you could do is get red buff leash into the Krugs here and then go back to chickens for the full clear. This way you can do a full clear, which is what we're going to do in this example, but you will be slightly late to the Scuttle Crab if you are not perfect, and I'm not perfect. I don't play 1,000 billion games of Kayn, so my clear isn't perfect. So what will happen is I'll get to the Scuttle Crab around 3:30 or 3:20, something like that. So you've got to be aware that you might be a bit late, and that means you've got to be aware of the jungler you're facing. Now the good thing about starting on this side of the map is you will end up on the bot side scuttle. Now normally in 80% of games, especially in a lower elo, your opponent jungler will normally start on like their bot side getting a double leash from their bot laners, which will mean you'll get like an uncontested scuttle bot side, if that makes sense. If you're starting on the other side of the map, you will get there because you'll start red, which is the bottom, right? And then you end up top side, which means you might get a contested Scuttle Crab and you're a little bit late. And if you do this jungle path without a leash, you will use up both of your smites too. So you want to smite on the red camp, or the red buff. You want to use your first potion on the Krugs. You want to use your second potion when you're doing the blue Gromp, which is what I'm showing you now. And you want to smite the Gromp as well. So they're your two smites. You can get away with not smiting the Gromp, but you'll be very low. You want to take Q level 1. You want to take E level 2. And then you want to get a second point into your Q level 3 and then get your W level 4. So that's basically the very beginning of the clear on Kayn. You can also start wolves. There are other variations you may have seen online or whatever. And see when you take the blue, when you take the E through the wall after you get the Gromp, you're actually relatively full health. But remember, you don't have smite because we smited it. So you have to be aware of that. So what I have been doing lately in these videos is giving you a very quick rundown of the abilities before we go into the abilities in detail. That way, while you're seeing me clear, and I know I've cleared the whole jungle now, so it's a little bit late, but just so you're watching, you know what's going on. But basically, just before I get into that, I just want to mention, once you do your full clearing at the Scuttle Crab, look for a gank. So in this case, we've got a Blitzcrank mid, extremely weird, and we're just going to see if we can make something happen. And we actually can. So it was actually fantastic from the Blitzcrank. So we end up getting a nice gank off, get an assist. Unfortunately, now remember in this game, we are trying to go Red Kayn, but we did a lot of damage to the Syndra, who's a ranged champion. And I will go through that in a moment with this passive. But let's quickly go through the active ability so you know what's going on. So Q is like a dash and a spin that does damage. The W is a lined horizontal up sweep that does damage. The E lets you go, like increase your movement speed, you can go through walls. And the ultimate is basically you have to do damage to a champion, then you use your ultimate, you go inside them, and then you wait a few seconds, then you come out of them and do damage. So the abilities themselves are quite simple. And remember, we will go through the abilities in much more detail as we go through the video, but just so while you're watching, you can get a little bit of a sense of what's going on. So the Blitzcrank is calling for another gank. So we're just going to quickly clear these chickens and then see if we can go straight back onto the Syndra. And let's quickly talk about when you should go Red Kayn before we get into the runes and whatnot, and when you should go Blue Kayn. So in this particular game, we have a Thresh top, which is, again, weird, but he is melee. We have a Syndra mid, so she's ranged. I can't quite remember the rest of the team. I'll see it when they come up on the minimap. But essentially this. In Champ Select, what I normally do is I have a set of runes for Red Kayn and a set of runes for Blue Kayn. And I'll go through the runes for Red in a moment, and then the Blue Kayn runes will be in the next video. And then I'll lock in Kayn, and then I'll wait to see the enemy team comp. If they have 3 ranged squishies or more, it's a Blue Kayn game. If they have 3 melee style champions, and even if they're squishy, if they are 3 ranged champions, I'd recommend go Red Kayn. The reason is if you try to play Blue Kayn into 4 tanks, obviously that's not going to work out well for you because you're an assassin. But in saying that, if you are playing Red Kayn into a bunch of squishies, it's not the end of the world. Just be aware that you need to make sure you're attacking the right targets to get your form. All right, and I'll go through that in a moment with the passive. We get hooked by the Thresh. We're just trying to see if we can get this Scuttle Crab. But let's go through the runes. All right, let's go through the Red Kayn runes. These are the runes that I'm using this game. Right, so we're going to go Conqueror, Triumph, Legend, Tenacity, Last Stand, Sudden Impact, Ravenous Hunter. So secondary would be Ravenous Hunter, then double Adaptive Force with an Armor rune. Obviously, you take Smite. So they're the runes, quite straightforward. Now, as I said before, you need to have both runes set up for both your forms. And then you just choose in Champ Select when you when you know which game you're playing. So you see how we're into a set, Thresh. I think their jungler was an AD, was a melee. So we're going to go Red Kayn this game. But you can see sometimes it doesn't quite work out. Even if it's the best game to go blue and they have one melee champion, that's their jungler, for example, you might end up fighting them 1v1 a lot, and you might end up getting your Blue Kayn form despite you want to be going red, or vice versa, you know. So you see here I'm trying to deal damage to Thresh, not necessarily kill him, put a bit of pressure on him, but I'm really just trying to obtain those red orbs. And again, we'll go through that in a moment when we go through the build, the passive, especially on Kayn. So next, we're going to quickly mention the level up order of Kayn. So when you're going Red Kayn, which is the focus of this video, we'll go through it. You're going to go Q level 1, E level 2, as I mentioned earlier. Q again level 3, then W level 4, and then you want to max your Q, then max your W, and then max your E last. Taking a point into your ultimate every single time you can, obviously. So we're into Master Yi, that's right. So another melee champion. So this is pretty much a good example of a Red Kayn game. They have Set, Thresh, and Set, Thresh, and Master Yi. So 3 melee champions, whereas they only have Syndra and the Caitlyn, I think it was, that is arranged. So this is one of those games where it's kind of in between, so it just depends on who you focus. So we can see there, we get on top of the Syndra, we kill her. We need to make sure we get out if we can. We use our ultimate on the set to refresh our cooldowns. We level up our Q. And then we're just going to try and see what we can do. But ultimately, the set was a great roam, so we end up dying. But we're just trying to get as many orbs as we can to get form. Get some, obviously, nice items early. So we got 1 kill, 1 assist, and we're farming very, very well. Making our way through the jungle quite efficiently until I see a gank, and then I have to respond. The problem is we're losing dragons. So when I play Kayn, I like to just focus on my farm and then my form. And then I'll worry about my objectives after I've got the form at least. Because you want to get to your form as quickly as possible. Because your champion changes fundamentally. It makes you much stronger. Alright, so what we're doing here, we're just going to clear our bot side camps. Then we'll look into a gank after that. So we're going to go through the starting items on Kayn. Now it changes depending on if you're going to go blue or Red Kayn. Now, normally when I go Red Kayn, I'll take the red smite. That'll increase your 1v1 dueling potential, which is basically what you want to be doing on Red Kayn anyway. Whereas when you play Blue Kayn, I like the Chilling Smite because you can slow enemies, which is great for an assassin, especially if they've got mobility. You can slow them and then make sure you get on top of them and kill them. However, you can take the Challenging Smite or you can take the Blue Smite when you're playing Rast as well. So I wanted to go bot lane to try and get some red orbs. But looks like I remember this, my bot lane ended up getting the double kill, so they didn't quite need me. So now I'm going to head back to blue on the Blitzcranker's request, and we're going to end up going back onto the Sindra. So despite having lots of melee targets to gain red orbs off of, we're going to end up getting our blue form in this game, which is not ideal. It's not bad. It's just not ideal. So you can see there on the bottom, we have blue form available and red forms in 4 minutes. So we can still get rid of that cooldown by... I ended up taxing this Blitzcrank pretty hard. I kind of feel bad. I think he question mark pings me, yep. Because he is in a support champion, I thought, I'll just take the gold and carry the game. That's fine. And then I think I ended up taking a plate as well. So lots of gold coming into our pocket. A great game so far. And then I think we're going to go straight to the Thresh to try and reduce that cooldown of our Red Kayn. So you can see we go back onto... We find the Master Yi doing the Rift Herald. So he's doing a good job of objectives, which is what Master Yi wants to do because he's a late game champion. But we can see we can just 1v1 him pretty hard. Use our ultimate to get inside him to get our cooldowns. Unfortunately, he gets a nice healing with his W. Gets a nice Q off, but ultimately he is finished. So another kill. A lot of red orbs going to us there. You can see the cooldown went from 315 to 220. So that was fantastic. Now, let's go through the build, and then we're going to start with the passive. So the build of Red Kayn is Gore Drinker Rush. And then I like to go Black Cleaver for more damage. You can go Steric's Gauge. It's up to you. And then you want to go, depending on the game, normally it's Steel Caps. You can go Mercury Ches if they're a heavy AP team. And then after that, I like to go, like if you went Black Cleaver, I would go Steric's Gauge after that or vice versa. And then you can go Spirit Visage or Thornmail, depending on the game. Okay, so if they have a lot of healing, go with the Thornmail and then Spirit Visage if they got a lot of AP threats. You can also go Muramana, whatever it's called, that bloody item. And then also Random Omen, depending on the enemy team comp, right? So if they have a lot of crit. So... with Kayn, Red Kayn, the build is quite diverse. And this is the same with Blue Kayn. There is a little bit of diversity with the build. So, we're going to have a look to see if we can gank bottom. What's this? 11 minutes into the game. Haven't started on the abilities. That is the thing when I go with junglers. I like to make sure everyone's clear on the clear and what we're doing. Great set ultimate. Ended up slamming me onto the Ziggs. And then closing the gap onto the Xayah and end up getting her killed. And unfortunately, look at that. That burst comes through. I think she had a bit of... I remember checking her runes going, what the hell? There was a burst after the ultimate, which is a Dark Harvest, which is a bit strange. So, fortunately, the Ziggs ended up replying, getting a kill, but we ended up dying, which is not great. Alright. So now that we've been through everything, let's go through the abilities. And you can see here, after a bit of patience, we end up getting our red form. So to get the red form, you need to be back at the base, like to actually transform. So 12 minutes for form isn't great, but it isn't terrible. So we end up turning into Red Kayn, and then we're going to start popping off now. As now we become the real champion of Kayn. Or rather, now the lore of it is that the Kraken or the weapon has taken over Kayn's body, and now we're a demon. It's kind of like Aatrox. He's like a... whatever the demon's called. So he's going to just... crack Rast. Can't remember what the demons are. That's specifically the demons called, but nevertheless, if you don't care about the lore and you just care about stomping people, Red Kayn is great for team fighting. So we're going to go straight onto the dragon. The Master Yi is dead, so it's a great time to do it. We have bot line Prio. The mid lane is pretty much ours, despite it being a Blitzcrank into Syndra, which is quite weird. And that's probably due to the early ganks and the Blitzcrank setting up nicely, so the Syndra's playing quite far back. We end up getting a nice dragon, so now we can start focusing objectives as we do have form. So let's go through the abilities. Now, we're going to start with the passive. Now, this is very, very long-winded, but it's not too complicated, but it is a little bit long-winded. So basically, Kayn, as I said, has the weapon, and you transform into either red or blue Kayn, depending on these orbs that you collect. Okay, so... if you deal damage to melee champions, you collect red orbs, which turn you into Red Kayn. And if you damage to melee ranged champions, you get blue orbs, which turn you into blue Kayn. So that's what I'm saying is at the beginning of the game, you need to make sure you choose correctly. Because if you pick blue Kayn runes into a full melee matchup or team comp, you're not going to be able to get blue orbs, and it's going to take you so long to get your form. Okay, so that's a bit of a concern. All right, beautiful hook from Blitzcrank. We're going to go in, clean up the Syndra. The Master Yi's here. The exhaust comes out. I think we're going to, from memory, we flash to use our ultimate. We fail it pretty hard, so a little bit of a bronze moment for myself. And we're going to try and get to the Master Yi. There we go. We use the Q to close the gap. Then we use the knock up, and then that ensures that the the Blitzcrank land this hook. So fantastic work from the Blitzcrank, doing work in mid lane. It reminds me of the Worlds final. If you've watched any pro League of Legends where I think it was Doomby used Nautilus mid and just ran around doing exactly what this Blitzcrank's doing. A little bit different, but fantastic. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Doomby. All right, so as I was saying, yeah, so I've explained the orbs. So once you fill up the bar, you can return to the summoning platform and transform. So when you transform, we're going to go through Red Kayn. So when you become the Darken or the Rast, that's the name of the demon, the Darken. Basically, you heal for 30 to 40% of physical damage that is dealt with your abilities. So your Q, your W, and your ultimate. You heal for that. So it means that Rast is an absolute monster team fighting damage bruiser. Like that's going to be able to sustain a lot in fights. Great for team fighting, being in the action. And this combines fantastically well with your Gore Drinker, because the active of that, the more people you hit, the healing. So if you come up against the Kayn, especially a Red Kayn, you need to build healing cut, because you can see how much healing he does, and you see it in team fights later on, how much healing he does. So beautiful dive from our team. The Ziggs has a lot of pressure with range, so he's able to burst out the set. Now while my team gets the tower, I'm going to try and look to see if I can get onto the Caitlyn and finish her off. So that's basically all the passive is, guys. You collect orbs, and then the orbs make you transform. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about that, leave it in the comment section. I'll be happy to fill you in. Fantastic again with the Ziggs. The Siege of Ziggs is pretty much unmatched in this whole game. Not only can he poke with range outside the tower, he can just demolish the tower once it gets to 50% health or whatever, depending on the level of his satchel. So that's the passive. Now let's go through the Q. Now the Q is quite simple. You basically dash and then you do a spin. Both of those do different instances of damage. So what you can actually do, and you're clear, you would have seen me doing it, is if you're next to a wall, you can dash into the wall and then it will go dash spin really quickly. It just means you can get a little bit of a faster clear, because you're not doing that whole dash and then spin animation. It's just a dash spin animation, like instantly into the wall. So it just speeds up your clear slightly. You can use it for mobility, getting over walls. You've seen me do that a few times. You saw me do it against the Master Yi to close the gap to land my W. And that's about it with the Q. There's nothing really much else. Now, the difference is, and this is specific to Red Kayn, so once you become Red Kayn or the Darken, your Reaping Slash is modified and does damage depending on their maximum health. Okay? And it scales with your AD. The slash is modified, deals 65% AD of the target's maximum health. So you do more damage to high health targets. So again, that team fighting role, that let's be a bruiser and try and do damage to other bruisers in 1v1. So against the Master Yi, for example. So the best way to kill Master Yi is with CC. And almost an absolute mirror of the earlier fight we had earlier. The teammate comes through and steals the kill, but that's fine. We're pretty fed at this point, 5-2. And you can see once I get my form, I start running around doing all the objectives. So I don't mind losing the first dragon or even first two, as long as I come through and go back and get them all. Because you can pretty much control all the objectives after you become red, because your team fight prowess is unmatched, almost unmatched. So that's basically the Q. It modifies and just does more percent HP damage. Okay. Let's see if we can get onto the Syndra. She flashes our W, so we get a flash out. That's not too bad. So now that was the W you just saw. And again, I will show you a example of all these abilities on this top left-hand corner of the screen. Now, before we go through our W, I just want to explain what I did there. Now, I used the Rift Herald mid to ensure we have enough pressure to get the dragon. I mean, I could have used it a bit better. I could have actually stayed mid and maybe got the tower. My team could have got the dragon without me, but I just wanted to make sure using different sets of pressure to get other objectives around the map, which is fantastic. So we end up getting I think it's our third dragon. Could be our second. I can't quite remember. So again, we're making a nice comeback in terms of objectives. We're two levels on the Master Yi. He's pretty much in a lot of trouble now. So we end up, what I do on Kayn, especially when I'm fed, is just forcing fights constantly, because I know we can win the fights. So my team's following up nicely. It's a 3v3 at the moment. I am low health, but I do have a lot of healing. So we end up going 2 for 1. If my team get out, it's a good trade. I think Blitzcrank's going in there to make his presence known. I can't quite remember. He just dies, doesn't he? So yes, these games, as I always say, are pre-recorded, and then I go through the commentary, all the abilities. We get a nice, well, I mean, we did die. We go for 2 for 2, I believe, but we do get pressure top, and then the team is going to end up getting a tower or at least a teleport off the enemy team. So, you know, not the worst trade. Could have been better if we got out, if I didn't die. So let's get back to the W. So now the W is called Blade's Reach. Now, Blade's Reach just does a targeted, like a sweep. Now, before you turn into Red Kayn, it's a slow. It obviously does physical damage. Now, when you, and I will mention this quickly, there are certain things that happen when you become Blue Kayn, but we'll go through those in the Blue Kayn video, okay? I hope that's obvious. So when you become Red Kayn form, your W now has a knockup. So that's all that happens to the W, damage, and you get a knockup. Now that knockup is actually so critical in the team fighting, because when you knock someone up, especially if you're 1v1ing them, you're allowing for your other cooldowns to come off, if that makes sense, because they're in the air, they can't damage you. So you open up with your Q, then you W, maybe you throw a Gore Drinker in there, make sure you're autoing in between. Because they're in the air, your Q may have come off cooldown, throw your Smite in if you've got it up available, and then your ultimate can come in as well to buy you even more time to get your Q back up, because that is your main source of damage. It is your first max. So that's the W, very straightforward. Now we're going to go through the E. Now the E is a little bit more complicated, and it is a bit of a mobility slash utility spell. It isn't damage. So you can see here we're getting chased by the set. We use our Q for movement, but we get hooked by the Thresh. So we're going to end up having to flash over the wall, which is a little bit unfortunate. But we're going to go through Shadow Step, which is E. So Kayn. Kayn gains 40% bonus movement speed. He gets ghosted, so you ignore unit collision. Now, if you've been in combat in the last 3 seconds, I believe the cooldown is only one. The length of the Shadow Kayn, or the Shadow Step rather, is only 1.5 seconds. So you want to use it when you're out of combat to increase the range, but sometimes you just need to use it to get in and out of a wall to get the healing, which is the next part. So Kayn kills himself upon moving through terrain. So walls, towers, I believe, like rocks. So Nivea walls, anything that's terrain, you can move through. As we have a look at this team fight here, we get inside the set, we burst him out, we smite him, and we finish off with the Q. There's the Zigzag. The Kayn, unfortunately for us, walks straight into that. She gets stunned. She flashes our Q. We made a bit of a mistake there. We could have probably killed her if I was a bit quicker. Now we miss our knock up on the Master Yi. The Ziggs is here doing all this damage. Fortunately, we can't quite finish the Master Yi. Again, a little bit of a misplay. I had my smite. I think he ended up dying to a burn on the Ziggs. So fantastic. The Master Yi died. So this is working out pretty well. So okay, so you use your E. You can see me using it there. You can go through terrains and then you heal. That's the reason why you take it level 2, is because you start off with your chickens and then you E through a wall to get, not only to make you clear faster, but to heal you. And you'll see me using it throughout my clear to get around the map. One thing I will say as well, while I just did the blue buff, is it's important to make sure you're getting blue buffs, because Kayn runs out of mana quite a lot. And that allows you to stay on the map quite long if you make sure you're getting your blue buff. So you can see we got a lot full mana here. So basically I'm just going to go straight onto the Thresh, make sure I get a kill. Didn't quite get it. Go back onto the carries. You can see, look how much healing I do with the Gore Drink. It's absolutely insane. So the Syndra goes through. We kill the Syndra. We're going to go try and focus our attention on the Caitlyn. Look at the healing, guys. Look at the healing with the Gore Drinker coming through and absolutely demolish that fight. And we finish off the set with our W. So fantastic. So now back to the E. Receiving damage while in a wall, you come out of the wall. So be aware of that. Obviously, CC will pull you out of the wall as well. So that's basically all you need to know with the E. Now the last ability is the ultimate. It's called Umbral Trespass. Kayn vanishes and dashes into a marked enemy. So to mark them, you have to deal damage to them. Even with Smite, I Smite and use my ult sometimes. And you go inside them for 2.5 seconds. You reveal the target. And then after 2.5 seconds, you come out of them dealing damage. You can recast it to come out of them quicker. Massive mistake here, taking 3 or 4 tower shots. Because I remember what happens to me. The Master just comes on top of me and absolutely murders me. So a little bit of bronze boosted moment for myself. Trying to make sure we can end the game there. But we couldn't. I mean, when you only have one inhibitor, trying to end the game is a little bit hard to do because you just don't have the minions there. So we should have backed out actually and gone to the dragon, but that's my bad. So after a short period of time, you come out of the target and deal the damage, okay? And you can actually move or choose where you escape out of them. And again, I'll have an example of that in the top left. Now, when you become Red Kayn, again, you get a modified R. So what happens with the R is you deal 10% of the target's maximum health, and you heal for 7% of that. So that's on top of your passive healing. So the R actually heals you for a lot. It also scales with bonus AD. And you will see we're building, ends up building a lot of AD. So in this game, I ended up getting a Death's Dance just for more, to survive a bit more burst and a little bit more physical reduction, because they are actually full, besides Syndra who's behind, they're pretty much full AD. So it was not a bad decision to go there. So you need to be quite fluid with your builds as well when you're playing Kayn. Even with the blue Kayn, there are options to go either. So we're going to have a look here. We know the Yi was on the dragon. We're going to wait for our team. They're still on it. The Thresh hooks us. We're going to knock up the Master Yi. We're going to try and kill him. We ended up stealing the dragon thanks to the Zigzag, I believe, because he smited early. And we ended up getting the kill, and no thanks to me. Just my presence actually probably would have thrown off the Master Yi. But we ended up getting the dragon. I think that is Soul. Maybe not. By the way, we're 8-4 and 11. Great game for myself. Now we're just going to look to push in bottom while mid's getting pressured. Again, I like to get 2 inhibitors down before we try and end the game, just to make it a little bit easier with the minions. Again, we have Ziggs, so he can demolish these towers, as he did there. I wanted to focus on the tower before going onto the set. We knock up the set, we use our ultimate. We smite while in our ultimate, which is another thing I didn't mention. You can smite while you're inside them with their ultimate, and then we end up bursting the Caitlyn there. So we end up getting end up getting a lot for that. Nice Zhonya's from the Ziggs. We end up bursting the Master Yi with the Zaya's help. So we absolutely stomped this game. So it's a fantastic Red Kayn game. I really, really enjoyed it. The next game is going to be a little bit more hectic, a lot more kills, a lot more assassin-y sort of play. When you play Red Game, you want to focus objectives and play through the middle of the map, whereas when you play assassin or any type of assassin, you want to be trying to split more and trying to get picks off their carries, trying to get farm in the bot wave. So we did a nice little challenger flash because we knew the game was over, and we ended up missing the W anyway. So anyway, fantastic game. I went through the abilities, and I hope you don't have any questions. Like, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll be happy to go through them all. But yeah, fantastic game of Red. I really, really enjoy Red Kayn. So I hope you enjoyed. Remember, the next video will be the blue Kayn. So remember to hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button, helps me a lot. And thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, at the end of the day, it is nighttime. Take it easy.